Hey everyone, this is Randy from BibleBuyingGuide.com. Today I'm taking a look at a Bible I've been waiting for 40 years, since 1983. I walked into a Bible bookstore, saw a paragraph Bible that I like the look of, and I wanted it in KJV. Thomas Nelson has now finally published this in KJV. Enough people finally ask for it, and they are listening. If there's something you want, let them know. If enough people ask for it, they will make it. So they sent it to me to review in black genuine leather, purple Leathersoft, and in hardcover. So, quick look at all the covers. The gray hardcover it's a gray with an excellent texture with gold printing and gray paper liner paste down that doubles as the presentation page. Now, all three of these have overcast stitching in the front. So even the hardcover edition has overcast stitching. All are sewn. The purple Leathersoft, purple looks like calfskin. It looks elegant. Gold printing on the side, on the spine. Paper paste down liner that doubles as a presentation page. Content on all these is the same. Paper on all these is the same. So there's no difference between them. And then the one I've been using and the one I am claiming for myself is the black genuine leather. So quick look at the specs on the back if you want to see that. The black genuine leather does look like a stamped green. Has perimeter stitching. Small text on the front for Holy Bible. All three have the same. There's the spine on this one. The gray has one ribbon, and the imitation leather and the genuine leather both have two ribbons. So all three are made in South Korea. The black genuine leather has a vinyl paste down liner. Real quick to show how they open. The hardcover stays open the best. Not all hardcovers do this. And not all paste down do this also. But it does stay open well. You'll see that little hump right there. That's because of that overcast stitching. That first signature coming out. That's normal. But it stays open with no trouble at all. The purple does the same thing, except it's a little bit stiffer. I haven't used this one as much though. It's a little bit stiffer out of the box, so it'll take a little bit more breaking in to open. But there it is in the early parts of Genesis. It will stay open fairly well, not fight against you. So there's that one. And then the black genuine leather stays open really well. Now this one has a separate presentation page. And then there it is staying open on the first page. And you see that section coming separately because of that overcast stitching, which I will show you. If you see the line of stitching, kind of hard to see on camera, but there's a line of stitching all the way down on the side of that signature. That is overcast stitching. And that, I've only seen it in the front of these, and what it does is gives it extra structure so that it doesn't come apart so easily. So that makes any of these really good for a rebind if that's what you're interested in. So all three are made in South Korea using the typefaces designed by 2K Denmark. The paper, I'm not sure of the GSM. It feels like it has a coating. It is smooth, but it's not a premium paper, I don't think. It's not the same paper as what you would see in the Premier Collection, and it's not the same paper that you would see in the McLaren or any of those. It's a little different, but it's good paper. It feels like good quality paper. I don't think it's premium paper, but I could be wrong. If I would guess on the GSM, I'd probably get it wrong. I don't know. It's in the 30s. I can say that. It's probably in the mid 30s. Low to mid 30s. Probably 32, 36, in that range. But with the coating, it's kind of hard to tell. But here is our layout. Double column paragraph setting with all the reference keys and footnote keys in the text. And you do see the references and footnotes in the footer. And what they've done this time around, they have made the glossary in italics. The footnotes are in italics. All headings, book names, chapter numbers, all the highlights are in black. Verse numbers, everything's in black. It would be really nice to see them in red or in blue. But we have our references in the footer. These are the same references as found in the Sovereign. And then we have the footnotes and the updated words in italics. So they stand out a little bit easier, a little bit better, a little bit easier to see them. About 10 words per line. The same book introductions as you're going to find in the Sovereign. So a couple of paragraphs, a little bit of basic information about the book. And then poetic setting. So poetry looks like poetry. Prose looks like prose. And they don't care about verse divisions. They focus on the text divisions and then put the verse numbers in, which is my preference. So poetic setting. It does look to be line matched. So the lines of text are printed in the same place on both sides of the page. That does improve readability. I don't find the paper too difficult to turn. The opacity is excellent, especially for not being a premium paper. Seems to have a little bit more opacities than some other that I've seen. The text is 10 point font. And that is the KJV comfort print designed by 2K Denmark. Lots of poetry. Lots of poetry. Enough space in the inner margin to bring the text out of the gutter. Letters are indented to look like letters, personal letters. So a letter one person sent to another. And we'll see something like that. And the book of Ezra is a good place to look for letters. So, and they stand out. You can tell at a glance what's a letter, because you see the indenting and has the opening and then space between the lines, then the body, and then the closing. Stands out really well. So you can tell at a glance what's a letter and what's not. And here's an example where the paragraphing follows the text, not the verse division. So that starts a new paragraph, but it's part of this verse. I don't find the verses too hard to find. For example, if I'm looking for like verse 10, I would look at the first paragraph that I come to, and then I already see a 9, so 10 is going to be right in here somewhere. There's a 10. It's not too bad. It does take an extra second. It's not too bad. Italics for supplied words. And there is our poetic setting. Double column poetry. So Psalms looks like Psalms. I like that. That's what I've been waiting for. There's a few KJVs that do have a poetic setting, but not to the extent this one does. Not even close. So poetry looks like poetry. And as you can see, just going through here, we don't have a lot of lines with a single word on them. So we have good verse divisions for the poetic setting. They're divided in good places. And that's consistent all the way through. So poetry looks great. I love reading this poetry. Print quality is highly consistent. There's some switching back and forth in the prose and the poetry. You do have every now and then something with a one word, but it is so few that it's hard to find actually. There are not that many. It looks excellent. I like that. Beautiful. Yeah, this Bible is a joy to read from, and I've preached from it. I have no issues preaching from it. It does take an extra second to find a verse, and then you got to figure out where you're going to end if you're just going to read the verse. You just have to pay a little bit more attention. It's not too bad. A little bit more show through on certain pages. The show through is a little bit more noticeable in certain lighting. But it's not bad. It never gets terrible. At least in my opinion. You can see how floppy that is too. That is floppy. At the same time, I can hold it open if I need to, but you can tell that is a floppy cover. Lots of poetry. And it is a red letter edition. And as you can see, here's the book of Matthew with poetry, 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 the Beatitudes and poetic setting. The verse numbers remain black, so they stand out in the red letter edition, the red letter areas, poetry. I'm amazed how much poetry there is actually in the New Testament. Now, there are some other Bibles that are in poetic setting, that are in paragraph with a poetic setting, but they don't have anywhere near as much poetry as this one does. One issue I did see is that sometimes, especially in the red letter setting, sometimes the verse numbers are a little too close to the text. Not much. Just every now and then you'll see this. It's not on every page. It's not every place, but there is some of that in here. Just the amount of poetry is amazing to me. And now, it does not mark Old Testament quotes separately. That is in the references. It's not a large amount of references. So if references are what you're looking for, if that's the goal, then this wouldn't be what you need. Poetry. That's where I'm reading. Because I'm reading from the reading plan in the back. Just the sheer amount of poetry is amazing to me. In any book, just about, the red letter is highly consistent. It's a dark red. I like that red. There's Acts with poetic setting. Poetry. And the letters in Acts also stand apart. I'll show you when we get there. And I like when text stands apart because it's easy to understand at a glance. There's a letter. You can see how it's indented. It's indented to the same amount as a paragraph is, but it's the entire letter that's indented. It's not right justified. We have left justified, but a ragged right edge, so it stands apart from everything else. So it doesn't look like poetry, because poetry indents in different ways for each stanza. So it just stands out. Easy to see, easy to understand. Poetry in Romans. Lots of poetry in Romans. You wouldn't know it just by reading it verse by verse. Poetry in 1 Corinthians. This is what I've been waiting for. So by identifying that type of text, the genre of text, by identifying it in its presentation, you can understand it easier, follow it easier. And it doesn't blend together. I don't use section headings when I'm reading. I ignore them. But I like them there because it breaks the text up so that your eyes take a break for a second. Just a little bit. I don't want what I call a sea of text. If it was just one big massive paragraph, you wouldn't know where you are. I like this. This presentation works for me. I did see a note from the majority text, but for the most part, they are the standard footnotes from KJV translators. There's a list. Looks like a list. I like that. The setting itself is from the New King James. So what myself and others have asked Thomas Nelson for was to give us a KJV in the NKJV setting. And that's exactly what they've done. I'll compare that to an NKJV in a second and show you exactly what I'm talking about. The one Bible that is the most similar to. So in the back we have the miracles of Jesus, parables of Jesus, a one-year Bible reading plan. A couple of things with this plan. This is the plan I'm reading this year. I started in the Sovereign, and went in the Sovereign until I got this Bible, and then changed over to this. And I've been reading in this one since February. Right there, day 6, that should be a 39 instead of a 29. And also, it gives us February 29th. I would rather not have that day there, and I would rather have that as a free day. You have to read extra 3 years out of every 4 to catch up. I'd rather have it the other way around. And then back here we have a concordance. Same concordance as in the Sovereign, which is pretty decent concordance. So here's how many it has for God, all the way down through there. Something like 58. Then Godhead, godliness, godly. So quite a bit here for study. So it's excellent for basic study, for sermon prep. And then in the very back we have our Bible Atlas. And this is printed on non-glossy paper. You might see a little shine because I've got a bright light above me. But it's not even noticeable as a shine. Colorful. It does not include an index, but it is annotated, so they're easy to use. And that is it. This is an excellent Bible for reading, for carry. A little bit difficult for preaching if you're not used to preaching from a paragraph, but if you are used to preaching from a paragraph, it's simple, easy. Thin line makes it easy to hold and carry. I like a thin line because you don't lose your text in the gutter. And this has enough gutter space anyway, it wouldn't really matter. Yeah, I love this Bible. They've done an excellent job with this. One thing I'd like to see, fix the little area where it does sometimes get a little bit too close to the text for the verse number. It's not a big deal. It's minor, but it's there. I wouldn't mind seeing this in a goatskin edition and Premier Collection. And all 3 are about the same size and weight. So we have 6 and 5/8 by 9 5/8 by 1 1/8, and they weigh 2 pounds and 1 ounce. So that is my look at the paragraph style large print thin line KJV. Poetry, letters, lists, paragraphs, beautiful Bible for reading. I highly recommend this Bible. I have no issues with this Bible. Quality is there. It's not a premium Bible by any means, but it's an excellent Bible. It's worth its money, and I recommend it. I've been looking forward to seeing this for a while, and Thomas Nelson did not disappoint. I am grateful that they created this Bible. So I will place links in the notes so that you can make a purchase if you're interested. Also, I'll place a link to the written review at BibleBuyingGuide.com, where I always go into more detail. And I appreciate Thomas Nelson providing these Bibles in exchange for an honest review. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.